Hello, you're watching Movie Snapshot Scenes, and this is the summary of Oppenheimer. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It begins in silence. Darkness interrupted by the flicker of flame and the sound of breath. Robert Oppenheimer stares into the void, haunted by visions of stars collapsing, particles colliding, and atoms tearing themselves apart. In his mind, science and poetry blur. Dreams and nightmares share the same space. He is both the observer and the catalyst. The story of the man who would become the father of the atomic bomb begins not with an explosion, but with curiosity. As a young physicist, Oppenheimer is restless. Brilliant, but anxious. Gifted, but emotionally volatile. He studies in Europe, Cambridge, then Göttingen, where quantum mechanics is being born. He meets giants. Bohr, Heisenberg, Born. He doesn't just want to learn from them, he wants to surpass them. But Oppenheimer is no ordinary scientist. His thoughts move faster than his speech. His ideas are as much about beauty as they are about numbers. To him, the universe isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a symphony to be understood. Back in America, he becomes a professor, splitting his time between Berkeley and Caltech. His lectures are legendary, his charisma magnetic, but beneath the surface, he battles inner storms, panic attacks, depression, and intense loneliness masked by sharp wit and cigarettes. Then, the world changes. News arrives from Europe. Hitler has come to power. Jewish scientists are fleeing. War is on the horizon. And suddenly, theoretical physics is no longer just theory. It has the potential to reshape the future of mankind. Enter General Leslie Groves. Pragmatic, direct, and deeply skeptical of intellectuals, Groves is tasked with assembling a team for a top-secret project, one that could end the war or end the world. He chooses Oppenheimer, a decision that raises eyebrows. Oppenheimer has no Nobel Prize. He has political associations that lean left. But Groves sees what others don't. A man with vision, charisma, and the dangerous brilliance required to lead. The Manhattan Project is born. Oppenheimer is placed in charge of building a city in the desert, Los Alamos. He is now not just a scientist, but a leader, a creator of something terrible and historic. He stares at the horizon. He doesn't know yet what it will cost him, but the fire has been lit. The desert stretches endlessly in every direction, dry, unforgiving, and empty. But in Oppenheimer's mind, it becomes something else entirely, a canvas. Los Alamos, New Mexico, a town built from nothing, designed for one purpose, to build the most powerful weapon the world has ever known. Scientists, engineers, military men, and their families are relocated to this isolated outpost, their lives swallowed by secrecy and ambition. Oppenheimer stands at the center. No longer just a theorist, he becomes an administrator, a motivator, a symbol. He wears a pork pie hat and speaks with urgency, his eyes burning with intensity. His charisma draws in the best minds of his generation: Edward Teller, Richard Feynman, Ernest Lawrence, Enrico Fermi. Rivalries simmer, egos clash. But the mission overrides everything. The stakes are clear. Germany is advancing. There are fears that Werner Heisenberg is leading a similar effort for the Nazis. If the enemy builds the bomb first, the war and the world may never recover. The pressure is enormous, the timeline unforgiving. Failure is not an option. The project consumes them. Physicists debate the unthinkable. What happens when they split the atom? Could they ignite the atmosphere? Could the chain reaction destroy not just the enemy, but everything? They run the math. The odds are low, but not zero. Still, the work continues. Oppenheimer balances brilliance with burden. He drinks more. He smokes constantly. He battles migraines and paranoia. He's surrounded by some of the most intelligent people on Earth, yet he often feels utterly alone. His personal life frays, his relationship with Kitty, his wife, is volatile, complicated by his ongoing affair with Jean Tatlock, a communist, sympathizer and emotional anchor from his past. The FBI watches, the military grows wary, but Groves shields him, for now. The bomb begins to take shape. They call it the gadget. It's small, metallic, unassuming, but inside it holds the power to unmake cities, to end wars, to redefine humanity. As the scientists push forward, a sense of dread creeps in. What they are building is not just a weapon, it's a threshold, and once crossed, there is no return. Oppenheimer looks to the sky at night, the desert stars above him, and wonders, are they creating salvation or damnation? The moment approaches. After years of equations, failures, arguments, and ambition, the gadget is ready. The test site is prepared, Jornada del Muerto, the journey of the dead man, deep in the New Mexico desert. The date is set, July 16th, 1945. The operation is codenamed Trinity. The scientists at Los Alamos are restless. Some are excited, others terrified. They debate morality behind closed doors. Some still question the physics. What if the explosion doesn't work? Worse, what if it works too well? But Oppenheimer moves with quiet intensity. He has become a man haunted by the very thing he created. His face is thinner, his eyes darker. He knows what's coming. He just doesn't know what it will mean. The bomb is assembled. Everyone is watching. The countdown begins. It's 5:29 a.m. A flash, brighter than the sun, cuts through the darkness. The earth trembles. A column of fire rises into the sky, turning night into day for miles. The shockwave races across the desert, swallowing everything in its path, and in the silence that follows, Oppenheimer whispers, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The test is a success, and nothing will ever be the same. Back at Los Alamos, the mood is electric. Some cheer, others weep. The impossible has become real. They've opened a door that cannot be closed. Word reaches President Truman. The bomb works. Plans are accelerated. 2 targets are chosen, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but Oppenheimer begins to unravel. What started as a race to end a war now feels like the beginning of something much worse. The conversations shift, from science to strategy, from theory to death tolls. He's no longer in control. He's a figurehead, a symbol of American triumph. But inside, he feels like a man standing at the edge of a cliff, watching the world step forward. He tries to raise concerns. He speaks of international cooperation, of arms control, of the soul of science. But few are listening. The war machine has momentum now. Politicians and generals see only power, victory, and shadows begin to gather. The fire that lit the sky has begun to burn from within. The war ends in fire. Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. A single bomb vaporizes a city. 3 days later, Nagasaki follows. Over 200,000 lives are lost. Civilians, children, entire generations reduced to shadows on walls. The world is stunned, awed, horrified. America celebrates. The headlines read, "Victory. The bomb has ended the war." President Truman praises the scientists. The public calls them heroes. But Robert Oppenheimer feels none of it. He walks through rooms full of cheering officials and feels invisible, detached. The bomb worked. But at what cost? He meets with Truman in the White House, the most powerful man in the world. Oppenheimer, shaken, confesses, "Mr. President, I feel I have blood on my hands." Truman, irritated, hands him a handkerchief and dismisses him coldly. "Don't let that crybaby back in here," he mutters afterward. Oppenheimer leaves in silence, humiliated. At Los Alamos, celebrations turn somber. The project is over. The scientists return to their universities, their lives, but they are not the same. They have touched something divine and diabolical. Their theories ended cities. Oppenheimer begins to speak out. He warns of an arms race. He opposes the development of the hydrogen bomb, a weapon far more destructive than anything they've built so far. He argues for diplomacy, for responsibility. He believes science should serve peace, not politics. But the country is changing. The Cold War begins. Fear spreads like wildfire. Communism is the new enemy. Loyalty is questioned. And Oppenheimer's past, his political associations, his relationships with leftist thinkers, becomes ammunition. He's watched, followed, and slowly turned into a threat. The very man who gave America its ultimate weapon is now seen as dangerous, unpatriotic. As Oppenheimer lectures at universities and pleads for international cooperation, his words carry less weight. The government, once reliant on his brilliance, now watches him with suspicion. And in his eyes, the fire dims. He is no longer the man who lit the sky. He is a relic of something the world is eager to move beyond. But he knows the truth. The silence. After the bomb is not peace, it's the breath before the next storm. The applause is gone. Once hailed as a national hero, J. Robert Oppenheimer now finds himself under siege. His brilliance, once seen as vital, is now viewed as dangerous. His name, once spoken with reverence, is whispered with suspicion. It begins with Lewis Strauss, a powerful figure in the Atomic Energy Commission. He resents Oppenheimer, his influence, his defiance, his refusal to endorse the hydrogen bomb. Their philosophies clash. Strauss wants strength. Oppenheimer wants caution. Strauss moves in the shadows. He gathers documents. He fuels whispers. He orchestrates the destruction not of a man's body, but of his reputation. In 1954, Oppenheimer is summoned for a closed-door hearing to review his security clearance. The process is political theater disguised as patriotism. It's not about justice. It's about erasure. He's accused of being a communist sympathizer. They dig into his past, his support for leftist causes, his friendships, his affair with Jean Tatlock, a known communist who died under mysterious circumstances. They question everything: his loyalty, his integrity, his right to speak. Witnesses are called. Friends turn cold. Some defend him. Others betray him. Even Edward Teller, one of his former colleagues, gives a measured but damning testimony. It cuts deep. Oppenheimer sits through it all, silent and composed. But inside, he's breaking. He's not on trial for espionage. He's on trial for thought, for doubt, for daring to believe that power should come with restraint. His wife, Kitty, stands beside him, fierce and unyielding. She watches as her husband is torn apart, not for what he's done, but for what he represents. In the end, the verdict is clear. Oppenheimer loses his security clearance. He is exiled from the inner circles of power, removed from the decisions he helped make possible. A man who changed history is now labeled a threat to it. But even stripped of title and influence, Oppenheimer remains something more dangerous. A voice, a warning, and a reminder that knowledge is not always power. Sometimes it's a burden. Years pass, the world changes, but J. Robert Oppenheimer remains caught in the shadow of his own creation. No longer at the center of science or policy, he lives quietly, teaching, writing, occasionally speaking out. The bomb gave him fame, but not peace. He becomes a ghost in American memory. Students admire him, but many don't understand the weight he carries. Colleagues still speak his name, but not in the halls of power. He walks the beaches of Princeton, lost in thought, his eyes always distant, as if still watching that orange cloud rise above the desert. The Cold War escalates. The hydrogen bomb is tested. Nations race to build bigger, faster, deadlier weapons. The dream of arms control fades into paranoia. What began as science has become a doctrine of fear. Oppenheimer watches as the thing he once led becomes a machine that moves without conscience. In interviews and lectures, he chooses his words carefully. He speaks not of guilt, but of responsibility. He doesn't regret stopping the Nazis, but he regrets what came after: the secrecy, the speed, the silence. In his private moments, he still remembers Trinity, the light, the heat, the silence that followed. He remembers telling President Truman about the blood on his hands, and being dismissed like a child. He remembers Jean Tatlock, her laughter, her darkness, the way she understood him before anyone else did. He remembers Kitty, who stayed even when everything around them collapsed. He remembers the men who once followed him into the unknown: Fermi, Teller, Lawrence. Some friends, some now distant. But most of all, he remembers the feeling. That knowledge could change the world. And it did. In 1963, long after his fall from grace, President Lyndon B. Johnson awards Oppenheimer the Enrico Fermi Award, a symbolic gesture of reconciliation. He accepts it with humility, not pride. His face is older now, thinner. The fire in his eyes is softer, but it hasn't gone out. In the audience, some applaud, others look away. Even in recognition, his legacy remains complicated, brilliant, tragic, necessary. Oppenheimer changed history, but in doing so, he changed himself. And now, as his life enters its final chapter, one question lingers louder than ever: was it worth it? Time moves forward. Oppenheimer grows older, thinner, quieter. His name is no longer front-page news. The world he helped shape has outpaced him. Faster rockets, colder wars, deadlier bombs. He is no longer at the helm, but his fingerprints are still everywhere. He walks alone on the beach, the waves brushing the sand with indifference. Nature, untouched by politics or science, continues its slow, eternal rhythm. But within Oppenheimer, everything still echoes. He remembers a conversation with Albert Einstein years earlier. They stood by a lake at Princeton, talking not just about equations, but about consequence. Einstein asked no questions about the bomb. He already knew the answer. What haunted both men wasn't whether it could be done, but whether it should have. Oppenheimer, in voiceover, reflects: "We thought by building it, we could prevent its use, that having the power would force restraint. But we didn't just make a weapon, we made a world where it could never be forgotten." In his final years, Oppenheimer is a man of contradictions. The genius who built the most destructive force in history, the patriot who became a political outcast, the man of vision who could not stop the future from becoming a nightmare. People still ask him about the bomb. He gives careful answers, but the truth is always beneath the surface, simmering, the weight of decisions, the ghosts of those who died, the silence that followed the light. He never escaped Trinity. In dreams, he still hears it, the countdown, the roar, the unbearable stillness. He still sees the fire, not just in the sky, but in himself. The moment when man crossed a line and could never return. The film closes not with fire, but with water, calm, endless. We hear Oppenheimer's final, internal thought. We imagined we might set the sky on fire, that the explosion might never stop, that we could end the world, and now, I think we did. The screen fades to black. A man who gave the world its most powerful weapon is gone, but his legacy is eternal, etched into history, into memory, into every moment where science meets power without mercy. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the destroyer of worlds and a man forever changed by the one he helped create.